Deep in the forests of California, I made a startling discovery.
My initial reaction was what is that?
A powerful corporation with decades of influence, rewriting science to serve their own agenda, and the secret plan that made it all possible.
And is it safe to use?
This investigation all started with a letter. The US Forest Service wanted to rehab land around my little cabin in remote Northeast California. And at first, it sounded routine. They planned to restore areas burned by two of the state's largest wildfires, which combined had burned nearly 1.5 million acres.
The largest single wildfire in California history.
The Dixie Fire.
The Dixie Fire.
The Dixie Fire.
It's day 5 of the Park Fire.
Park Fire.
Park Fire.
The Park Fire.
After these fires, the head of the local Forest Service told me and my neighbors about the agency's plan to remove burned dead trees and then replant thousands of those burned acres with new little baby trees. Which on paper sounded great, but then something caught my eye. The word herbicides. Turns out their plan is also to spray thousands of these burnt acres with glyphosate, namely Roundup.
Roundup herbicide by Monsanto. There's never been a herbicide like it before.
No root, no weed, no problem. Roundup.
Glyphosate is the key ingredient in Roundup, and it's the most widely used herbicide in the world. It's also the most controversial.
Monsanto and its parent company Bayer have agreed to pay more than $7 billion.
Bayer, the German pharmaceutical giant which acquired Monsanto, has now made a monster settlement. Almost $11 billion.
Now, Monsanto says that their main ingredient in this product, glyphosate, does not cause cancer.
More than 180,000 people have sued its manufacturer after the World Health Organization declared about 10 years ago that the chemical probably causes cancer. Now, Bayer, the German company that produces Roundup, is on the hook for more than $12 billion in legal costs and payments to the people who say it caused their cancer.
The jury agreed that Monsanto knew Roundup was dangerous and could cause cancer, but hid that fact from consumers.
But this year, the Trump administration has moved to protect Bayer from lawsuits, trying to make it harder for sick people to sue the company.
President Trump has issued an executive order to boost domestic production of glyphosate, saying the herbicide is critical to economic and national security.
Bayer maintains that it is safe when used as directed, and has won some of the lawsuits brought against it. So, what's the truth? That question launched me on a year-long investigation that went totally beyond wildfire recovery and down rabbit holes of ghostwriters, crooked scientists, and the mother of all PR meltdowns.
So you ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot.
But first, I did want to see what this looked like. So I drove out to a forest that had been recently sprayed, and what I saw floored me.
So look here behind me. What you see on this side is it's green, it's living, the bushes are alive. On this side, they've sprayed herbicides across tens, hundreds, thousands of acres, all to kill the living bushes, to kill the plants that would compete with the conifers, because the idea is they want to kill everything but the trees that they will harvest in 60 to 80 years. This is among the most heavily sprayed forest land in the state. Glyphosate has killed nearly everything here. More than 4 years after the Dixie Fire, it remains eerily silent.
Was this only happening near my cabin? I needed answers. So I called my colleague, data reporter Melissa Lewis. We embarked on a crazy project. We pulled every single pesticide report in California going back decades. That means that every time a business or the state sprayed glyphosate, we're talking about over 5 million reports, they're all in our database.
Basically, starting in 2020, the overall use of glyphosate started declining, but the forests are totally different.
We found that over the past 20 years, the use of glyphosate has more than quadrupled in California forests.
Check out this map that Melissa made. We only have these numbers on California because the state is crazy enough to make everyone report their pesticide use, and thank God they do, because no other state apparently does it. And so we have almost no clue what it looks like elsewhere. Almost no clue. I dug up this crazy long appendix to another crazy long EPA report, and guess what? It gives me an estimate for national use. And do you know where it estimated that 90% of forest spraying was happening? In southern states. So California is only a drop in the bucket. These southern states are some of the biggest timber producers in the country, and companies are using it right after they log the land, spraying glyphosate everywhere to make way for the next generation of trees. The timber companies and the Forest Service are using Roundup in the woods to help trees grow back faster, and then one day they can cut them all down again, make more money, and repeat the process. They are treating millions of acres of forest just like a row of corn.
It seems like it's poison that they're putting into the woods.
No, it's Prescott.
This is Joe Van Meter. He runs the Mill Creek Resort. It's where he and his wife rent cabins and campsites and where they raise their 3 daughters. Joe got a similar letter in the mail from the US Forest Service, and at first he was stoked. But then he also noticed that word, herbicide.
There's a lot that I really love in there, but then some of the things that they're proposing, like the use of herbicides, are just I can't agree with that.
He began asking questions, saw all the lawsuits, and then rallied his neighbors against the government's plan.
This is our backyard. This is where my children play. This is where the guests that we welcome to the property go out and explore. This is where people forage. This is where people hunt.
Joe and his neighbors have deep concerns about the safety of glyphosate, and they might be right.
Yeah, I mean, even just a couple pieces just right from here, like take that home with you, yeah.
I started digging into the science and a whole new rabbit hole emerged. I mean, how toxic is this stuff to humans and the environment? For decades, Monsanto, the original maker of Roundup, has insisted the product is safe when used as directed. But in 2015, the World Health Organization released a landmark assessment saying glyphosate is probably carcinogenic. It sparked all those lawsuits.
The most popular weed killer in the world may cause cancer. That is the determination by the International Agency for Research on Cancer.
The optics were really bad, and PR catastrophes like this didn't help.
You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually, but not really, but...
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Okay, so you...
No, but I know
so it's dangerous, right?
No, people try to commit suicide with it and fail fairly regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot.
Here's where the safety debate and our investigation takes a turn, because Monsanto's strategy went way beyond public relations. Monsanto was secretly behind some of the most influential scientific reports. It was padding the scientific studies in its favor. I read hundreds, make it thousands of pages of court documents, internal company emails, legal depositions, financial records to understand how they did it. And here's what I learned. I call this the secret 5-step plan to make the world believe Roundup is safe. Step 1, find a seemingly respectable scientist who is willing to play ball. In the late 1990s, Monsanto executives began searching for scientists they could pay to, quote, get up and shout glyphosate is non-toxic, and who could actually create seemingly scientific studies that can, quote, be referenced and used to counterbalance the negative stuff. One scientist they found was Dr. Gary Williams from the New York Medical College. Step 2. Publish a favorable study in a scientific journal that looks legit. Dr. Williams and 2 co-authors published a hugely influential study back in 2000. It ran in a peer-reviewed journal and seemed to have the stamp of legitimate science. And the report was unequivocal in its support of Roundup and glyphosate. In the final sentence, it concludes, there is no potential for Roundup herbicide to pose a health risk to humans. Step 3. Regulators used the favorable reports to say that glyphosate is safe. Monsanto's plan worked. The Williams report was widely cited by the media, the scientific community, and of course, government regulators. Step 4. Rinse and repeat. Monsanto soon had a whole collection of seemingly independent scientists who were secretly collaborating with the company. The chemical giant was able to orchestrate several influential studies over the years, many of which continue to be cited by government regulators and journalists. Step 5. Deny, deny, deny. In several of these papers, scientists explicitly and falsely deny their connection to Monsanto. In a 2016 report, Dr. Williams and his colleagues call themselves 4 independent expert panels. They all wrote that they were not directly contacted by Monsanto. But that wasn't true. They also wrote that neither any Monsanto company employees nor any attorneys reviewed any of the expert panel's manuscripts prior to submission to the journal. That wasn't true either. William Haydens was a product safety lead at Monsanto and a key orchestrator of these pro-glyphosate studies. Take a look at this video deposition I found of him from a lawsuit against Monsanto.
And you knew that it would be more powerful if it looked like it had been written by outside authors, right?
No, that's not correct.
Then, the lawyer reads Haydens' own email.
Let's see what it says here. You say it was noted this would be more powerful if authored by non-Monsanto scientists.
Oh yeah, I see that. So I sort of misunderstood your question.
In one email, Hayden shares an early draft of the report that he'd written for the, quote, independent scientist to use. He even claimed in a company email that he had basically ghostwritten that original Williams report, the one from back in 2000. But of course, Hayden's denied doing anything wrong.
And the truth, Dr. Hayden, is you ghost wrote that report, isn't it?
That is not correct.
The publisher of the 2000 Williams paper, they retracted the report, saying the authors had not disclosed the role Haydens and the company played. Haydens and Dr. Williams never responded to my request for an interview. I also reached out to Bayer, which bought Monsanto in 2018, for their side. They sent me a statement, saying basically everything they did was above board. Here's their statement. Bayer stands behind the safety of our glyphosate-based products, which have been tested extensively, approved by regulators, and used around the globe for more than 50 years. And they continue. The fact is that no health regulator anywhere in the world has ever found glyphosate to pose a threat to human health. Guess which federal agency still uses that Williams report as their most cited peer-reviewed source for saying glyphosate is safe? Yeah, the United States Forest Service. So I wanted to talk to the Forest Service officials behind spraying glyphosate.
We're looking for Ranger Nickerson.
So I went to their outpost near my cabin in the little town of Chester, California, and I sat down with District Ranger Russell Nickerson, who oversees like 500,000 acres of Lhasa National Forest. It was his decision to spray glyphosate here.
So I'm the decision maker for the district, so for that land base.
Is it safe to use?
I mean, really, if you want to talk more herbicide details, it's probably our Washington office that you would talk to on that.
You know, there's now been more than $10 billion in settlements and jury verdicts, you know, to people who got sick after being exposed to glyphosate. Does that raise concerns?
Yeah, I mean, it does from that level.
I asked him about U.S. Surgeon General nominee Dr. Casey Means. You know, she said, glyphosate, which is the most commonly used pesticide in the United States, has a direct relationship with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So I got to stop you right
Yeah.
now. Is that something that, I mean, he can discuss things that are in the purview of the project?
Yeah.
And right now, it's getting outside of like not in his official capacity. So if we could stick with the project and not so much what's the tools that are potentially being used.
Yeah. When you say I need to talk to the national office, I just want to make sure I understand. It's that the national office is telling you that glyphosate is a tool in your arsenal that you can use, correct?
Herbicides are a tool that we can use, on that landscapes.
Nickerson confirmed his office is still relying on the Forest Service's 15-year-old risk assessment of glyphosate. That report cites the Williams study, the one that's been retracted, more than 25 times. And so I looked into this study, and it turns out that Monsanto sponsored and paid for this study. And so when this is what you're basing your decision off of, does that information give you pause?
Something you'd have to talk about with our national office.
While investigating all of this, I came across a photo of the guys hired to spray Roundup on Forest Service land. They were covered in glyphosate. They didn't have the required training, nor were they wearing the required protective gear. But with timberland too, when I talk to foresters, they say, you see these guys who are from Central America, Mexico, coming out covered in purple, that have been spraying all day. And is that safe for those guys? And basically the Forest Service will say, the CERA document will say yes.
I don't know what it says to that. You have to talk to the national office on that again.
I reached out to the national office like Nickerson suggested and requested an interview with Tom Schultz, head of the Forest Service in DC. Now, he declined to speak with me, but his office sent an email saying, quote, "The department supports the use of glyphosate when used according to the product label," and saying the government uses, quote, "gold standard science."
Let me ask you this one. I'm very close to the end. Asking about herbicides.
Sure.
Would you use Roundup on your lawn at home?
I have in the past.
Yeah. And going through this process, would you continue?
I don't even know. Is it still available?
No, you're right. The Monsanto Bayer took out glyphosate from the Roundup that we spray on lawns because of, $12 billion in settlements and lawsuits.
I wanted to speak to somebody outside the Forest Service to learn if others think we need Roundup in the woods. I met up with the guy, Craig Thomas, an expert on fires who served on a congressional committee with former Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. This was Craig's reaction to what I'd unearthed.
Oh, God. That's totally corrupt. And it's time we face it.
We went through everything I'd uncovered.
5 of the top 7 in this U.S. Forest Service study were written by people that were being paid or connected to Monsanto.
See, that's so far beyond what the law should allow. Any kind of connection like that is just, do we care about human beings or our natural landscapes? Doesn't sound like it. That's just pathetic.
And this is what's being sprayed throughout the forest, and the EPA says that it's likely to adversely affect fish, mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles.
So this idea that they tell you that the spray just stays right where we spray it, nonsense.
So when you see that they're going to spray glyphosate all around here, what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction has been for quite a while that Smokey Bear has got a chemical addiction, and we need to get him into rehab. And it's a chemical addiction that's been fostered inside the agency with the help of Bayer and Monsanto. And, that it's damaging to people, it's damaging to biodiversity. And the system operated for thousands of years without it. There's no reason why we can't do the tending and learn how to live in these ecosystems without the harm and the incredible damage that they produce.
Thomas says the best way to help forests recover from wildfires is to use hand crews to replant trees and then, keep the forest thinned. In fact, one of the most productive timber-producing regions in North America outlawed glyphosate and other herbicides a quarter of a century ago. The province of Quebec produces a massive amount of timber by hiring people to do the work instead of using chemicals. And that's an interesting part of all of this. Yeah, it costs more to produce timber without toxic chemicals, but researchers have found it is not only possible and still profitable, but it also results in more jobs for the local economy without the risks of using glyphosate.
I worry about the people doing the spraying. A lot of them don't speak English. And the spraying people are getting Hodgkin's lymphoma. Explain that to me, because I'm not buying the safety factor.
Yeah, the Williams study has been retracted, but the bigger story isn't about one paper. It's about what happens when science itself is distorted.
We've shown is that it was not a legitimate paper, that it was an orchestrated move on the part of Monsanto deliberately to manipulate the scientific conversation.
I spoke with Naomi Oreskes, a Harvard professor who studies how powerful industries manipulated scientific understanding in ways that ultimately hurt the public, but helped companies' bottom lines. It is a pattern, she says, that keeps repeating.
The tobacco industry spent decades fighting the science, trying to convince the American people and people in other countries as well that we didn't really know for sure, that the science was unsettled. And so millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people kept smoking, and the World Health Organization now estimates that over 100 million people died in the 20th century from diseases, wholly preventable diseases caused by tobacco use. 100 million. I mean, we're really in a crucial moment here with glyphosate because you see the depths to which the defenders of glyphosate are going. If they poison the well of scientific debate, maybe they actually poisoned our literal wells as well. Because honestly, if this product was as safe as they said, then why did they feel they needed to manipulate the scientific literature?
In typical American fashion, while politicians and scientists and courts, they all argue about it, the chemical is now all around us. A US Geological Survey found glyphosate in 75% of the streams it tested 5 years ago. And a couple years later, a CDC report found glyphosate in 80% of Americans' urine it sampled. Now, the EPA recently re-reviewed glyphosate and once again declared it safe to use. But here's the thing. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which sits just under the Supreme Court, later overturned that decision, writing that the EPA had failed to fully assess the risks to people and the environment. So now the EPA is once again reviewing the safety of glyphosate and is expected to announce the results this year. And while that is going on, the Supreme Court is set to hear arguments over whether Bayer should even be subjected to the lawsuits, like those massive cases it's lost.
There could be light at the end of the tunnel for Bayer. Shares of the German pharmaceutical and biotech firm jumping as much as 14% yesterday after the Office of the U.S. Solicitor General formally backed the company's request that the Supreme Court review its case on Roundup weed killer.
This is turning out to be the year that could shape the future of the most widely used herbicide in the world. Yet despite all these uncertainties, here in California, the Forest Service is moving ahead with plans to spray record amounts of glyphosate, including a massive new project near Lake Tahoe. The Williams study may be gone, but its impact isn't. It's in the water, it's in the forest, and yeah, it's probably in you.